Hello, so in this video what we're going to be looking at is bringing our low poly and high poly assets into Substance Painter so we can create, bringing our low poly object to obviously have something with UVs to texture, and using our high poly information, our high poly models, our scopes to help us create additional maps such as normal, ambient occlusion, curvature, and whatever else Substance Painter will allow us to create. Now this is a very easy process, as long as you know where your models are, as well as your UVs, well not UVs, your UV'd low poly model and your high poly model, not your decimated model, your high poly scoped. That's all we really need to do. So inside Substance Painter here, I'm just going to go up to File, New, and here it's asking me what I want to actually have my template set up like. So my templates, if I drop that down, I've got a good few choices here. We've even got setups to bring it directly into like setup for Unreal, setup for OR, for Unity. I'm just going to go with the metallic roughness subsurface scattering. There we go. My file, that's what I actually want to be my my low poly model, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to navigate myself to where my low poly model is. This is there. Now everything else is going to be left the same. This down here it says import mesh normal maps and bake maps for all materials. If I had done previous bakes that were successful, I could just add them in here. The document resolution, I'm just going to leave as 1024. The great thing about Substance Painter is we can actively change that throughout the project to see the output of like a 4K map, and then bring it back down to a much easier workable level to actually start adding detail. Because if I start painting or trying to paint on a 4K map, it's going to get really sluggish and laggy. So for now, that's all I'm going to have. So I'm going to click OK. And there we go. We have my head brought into the scene. So I've already uploaded a intro to Substance Painter video on the VLE. So I'm not going to go over the different aspects of the window. However, I am going to, one, turn on symmetry and make sure that it's mirrored in the x-axis. I'm going to bring up my 2D and 3D view because I want to be able to see my UVs as well as my object, like that. In this case, I don't really need my texture set list because I'm only working on one texture, so I'm just going to close that to free up some space. My layers, I'm probably going to drag over here just to make sure everything's on my image maker stuff is on my right and all my window visual stuff is on my left. Now, at the minute, this is just my low poly model, so I've got my wireframe with my UVs, everything's looking good, that's perfectly fine, but I've not got any of my high poly information, which is what really is going to help me push this texture to the next level. So over in my texture set settings, here I can change my size of my the resolution of my document, which I'm just going to for now leave as 1024. I've got my different channels in here, and I'm just going to add one additional one inside channels. Go up to the X here, I'm just going to add emissive, and that'll come into work later on. And then down here it says mesh maps, bake mesh maps. I'm just going to click bake mesh maps, and here is the settings for this. Now I'm only going to really change one thing as well. I'm just going to change, well, two things I should say. My output size, I'm just going to put that as 4K just so nothing goes wrong. Nothing should go wrong, but I just want to make sure that's 4K so I can get the best resolution I can just in case anything goes wrong. And down here with normals, and in this window here, we've got the big black box, and then we've got the little add icon, which is a piece of paper next on the right. So if I click that, I then want to find my high poly sculpt OBJ. And then from there, you can see that everywhere that was an exclamation mark a minute ago is now a cube, showing you that it's actually dragging information from the high poly. If you were doing more complex modeling or more complex baking and stuff, there would be different settings you would have to put in down here, as well as some suffixes and stuff like that. But for me, I've only got my my head to do, nothing else. So I'm just going to click Bake Initial Shader Group Mesh Maps. It's going to take a bit of time, but you can kind of see the process it's going through, and we should be able to see like the different maps kind of pop up as they get made. This may take a little bit of time because obviously my sculpt is 10 million polygons, so that's going to kind of impact the baking time a lot. However, this is quite a fast process, and generally the Substance Painter baking process is actually quite reliable. Very rarely do I have issues or problems with this. So you can see there it's done my normal groups, it's done my world space normal groups, it's doing my ID maps, which it doesn't need to do, so I don't care that that's failed. It's doing my ambient occlusion, so you can see there that it's going to gradually start to bake out an ambient occlusion with all that lovely shadow data. Once again, this is one of my favorite maps to have. It's a super powerful map in a technical sense, but it's also a very attractive map to look at. That's very cool. And I like the new addition where it's actually showing you the maps get generated and how the process is going here in this Substance Painter window. Now we're going to curvature. So there's a curvature showing me all my lovely data there. Then that's of my world space, not my position data. And then it's my thickness. So the ID map, I'm not too fussed that it's failed because there was no ID information there anyway. My thickness is kind of brought off a so this is used when we're doing subsurface scattering stuff. It's also showing like areas of the mesh which are a bit thicker or closer to different parts of meshes. It's quite a powerful map when we come to use it. Cool. So now that's just finishing up. And okay, so everything's now been created. So you can see there the ID map, like I said, has failed. I don't care about that because I don't have any ID maps. Anyway, you can see now that I've got some high poly information on my object, which is great. And it actually looks really nice. There's no issues with the bake. Everything looks really nice and we're all good to go. So that's baking inside Substance Painter. I would absolutely go through and adjust some of these settings and just kind of read up what they do. You can see here I'm hovering over max frontal distance from ray tracing. You know, Google, have a look at what these do. Have an experiment on simple assets so it doesn't take ages to bake. And just see if you can get comfortable with using these. It would be an incredibly long, 4-hour long video to really go through all these different assets when really it just takes a couple of, like half a day, a couple of days just to go through yourself and work out how to use the software. But that's the baking side of things. And like I said, sometimes stuff doesn't bake in Substance Painter. So, you know, that's why Maya is there. That's why ZBrush is there. That's why, you know, Blender and 3ds Max are also there, depending on what your software of choice is. So for the baking side of things, that's it. In the next video, we're actually going to look at one of the processes in painting that we can use to actually really control our textures and really control our processes. Cool.